So at the start of this month, July, I went to an Escalation tournament back at Kirton Games. 3 games, 600, 800 and 1000 points. I'm taking my Army of the Dead again, but in a way where I fit in as many models as I can. Different to last time is I'm running a Rohan of the Dead list, with King Theoden of the Dead and captainless warbands led by dead Rohan heroes. Hang on, let me show you properly. There's also trying out an easy mode list, because there's a lot to not think about. No shooting phase, no cavalry models this time either, so I can fit in more models. No banner to forget to use, no special strikes because of the Blaze of the Dead ability, and no heroic actions. Well, I say no, I do have 1 might point to spend.
Your staff.
Yep, without any heralds to use their will as might, I have 1 hero model with 1 might point to use for a special occasion. So that's what I don't have to think about. This is what I'm left with. Obviously, movement, objectives and combats. And then there's something I reminded myself the night before and before driving up. A mantra I repeat, because in my past tournaments I didn't do it as much as I should, if at all. Shielding. So that's what I'm playing with. Now on to game 1, 600 points breakthrough, against Tristan and his Mordor army with something I hadn't faced before, a fell beast. He started deploying first and I mirrored him on my side of the board, and I had my 3rd warband to the side as what I proclaimed to be my stealth squad. Stealthy. One of the objectives was up on a tower. That would be 6 inches to get up to the top through the door. Didn't really want to go up there and attract the attention of the fell beast though. I got first priority, and instead of waiting to see if his low courage orcs would charge me, I charged into the mouth of Sauron and his orcs anyway, whilst the stealth team began their stealthy flank to the rear objective. This was met with a rule check and consideration to see if he would like to hurl with Camul on his fell beast. Which thankfully he didn't do. With Camul's warband behind, some of them failed courage checks, with the rest shoring up spear supports and him flying round on his fell beast. Then on to combats, and I started with the fun one against his army leader. During this phase, I got a picture of getting a 6 on a J-Max Army of Middle-earth Shagger dice, which I can't remember what it was for, but I have a picture of it, so it must have been important, so thank you John. By the end of combat, it could have gone better. Not at all well on the left flank. The left objective was pretty much lost, but they stuck around to avenge their fallen ghost friends. With more orcs freed up, I blocked a pass and split my stealth force, and they continued round the rock as this blurry ship photo shows. So the combats went on like the previous, more or less, until a spearman finally won a combat and got into a one-on-one and finished off the mouth of Sauron. I also had an important combat with the king, with a possible drained soul. Double 6 to win the fight, snake eyes to kill. Apart from the one spearman, Erwin was the only one getting some killing done, defending the pass. The game ended with my force quartered and stealth squad down to 1 in sight of the rear objective, and all my other warbands pretty much decimated. I did kill some of his. A fun game, but still a 12-0 defeat. Tristan gave me some advice and said about shielding.
Oh Sam, you simple-minded.
I forgot my whole mantra, the thing I had remind myself even as I walked through the door and up the stairs. After lunch it was on to game 2. Lords of Battle against friend of the channel Andrew, who's actually the reason I'm at this tournament. He left a comment on one of my videos and reminded me that I hadn't actually looked at Kirton Games for a while. So I had a look and there's a tournament coming up. So thank you Andrew. Bada bing bada boom, got a tournament to go to. Now I get to fight some dwarves for the first time, luckily not having to worry about their high defense. I lined my forces up and nearly stretched the whole width. Not a great tactical spot by those stairs, but it had to be done. Combat started pretty badly with Andrew getting priority, leading to me getting pummeled and rammed by goats over on the right. But it was better in the centre with my unengaged ghost starting to flank around. Luckily though, not many deaths. Yet. Things got pretty hairy and those goats had to go. So I used my special occasion point of might to get the king up and for the warriors to swarm the goat riders. Only point of might well spent, I would say. In the centre I had the advantageous opportunity of Dane being out by himself, and I trapped him. But not only did he win the fight,
I have a wee proposition, if you wouldn't mind giving me a few moments of your time. Would you consider just starting off?
he killed 2 of them.
All of you, right now!
We were evenly matched on the tally throughout the game, getting a bit ahead, then the other catching up and vice versa. I could rack up the kills with my greater numbers and stay alive with my high defense, but he was racking up the kills with his heroes, Dane and Dwalin.
Let's give these bastards a good hammering!
Most of these fights with Dane, even with so many dice on my end, would lose out on fight value, when we both got 6s. Both our dice were hot this game.
Put it out, you fools! Put it out! That's nice!
Ideally, as always, we want to get some king on king action, and all the goat riders were gone, except for the captain. With this scenario special rule, if I kill a hero, one of my own heroes in the fight gets a point of might back. I didn't want to take any risks, so I piled in on him. Rolled the king's dice first and he got the killing 6. Then rolled the 20 dice for his posse, just to see, and yep, a lot more wounds. We both said like a pincushion at the same time. The rare occasion where the king of the dead gets to use his only point of might twice. Then we were free to go and charge Dane, and he still won that one too. But then the king arrived for some king on king action. And eventually, he finally died.
The king is dead! Long live the king! Long live the king!
The centre was going well, but the left not so much. Throughout the game, I was getting slaughtered by Dwalin pretty much single-handedly.
Dwalin. That's your sinners.
On the other side of the stared altar of Dwalin's badassery was these two, going at it for most of the game. A very one-sided epic rivalry, with me losing every fight but not getting killed. Until finally he got him. With a 6, for an unceremonious epic rivalry win, which he did not deserve. Because at every point before that moment, he was getting his ass absolutely whooped. With his low model count, his force was broken, and fleeing the board more than not. Andrew's dice had turned on him. His dwarfs were passing courage checks here, there and everywhere to charge all the time. But now he was broken, but he didn't want to stay on the battlefield anymore. Eventually he was quartered, but the game kept on going. I kept on rolling 4s, and our tally was still close, so I had to make a choice. Do I do some pussy tactics and stay an inch out of his 5-inch charge range and stay alive, as more of his dwarves run away? But I decided no, and I charged in again. But guess what I've been doing this game? I've been shielding. Really helps with not losing fights and dying. Recommended. The next turn I did do some pussy tactics, and I had some spectators up to watch after clearing the last of the dwarves down below. Then, once the last crossbowman, who might as well have been picking his teeth with his bolts rather than trying to shoot it, fled the field, it was only Dwalin left. And a game that wouldn't end. So I charged in again, and he still won the fight. Eventually, the game finally ended. Dwalin stood alone, drenched in, I was going to say blood, but I guess it would just be spectral debris.
If you speak of this to anyone, I'll rip your arms off.
And it was 6-1 to me. In all the ruckus, he did break me, so that was a victory point, but I had killed his leader and was just ahead on the tally. So thank you, Andrew, for that really fun game. I'm glad we finally got to face each other. We met at my first time at Kirton Games. And when I was reflecting on that fun, and with some time left, I looked to the table next door, at this Dol Guldur display board. I thought, ooh, some Nazgul. Will not to be facing those with all the teleport and resurrection shenanigans. Game 3, 1000 points versus Joe, and the fall of Dol Guldur Legendary Legion.
9 for mortal men doomed to die.
Luckily, the scenario Command the Battlefield was in my favour. With getting more models in each quarter of the board, I had 59 ghosts and Joe had 10. But it was 10 hero models, and each had a card and a token and might, spells and abilities, and I had to admit I knew only a little about this Legendary Legion, and Joe explained each thing to me, which was much appreciated. But I also then had to admit to Joe that I wasn't going to remember most of that. And I said, I trust you, do what you need to do, will points, teleport, all kinds of Nazgulness, I'm just going to go with the flow. And with that, Maelstrom of Battle began, and he came on first with his one warband. Not all my warbands came on first turn. The kings and one other warband rolled ones. Aimer's warband had the pleasure of being chosen by Joe, right in the thick of his warband. I took what I thought to be a safe position between the edge of the board and the house, to stop any flanking. But I had 2 models which didn't fit. Were they going to be brave? Fuck it, let's do it and put them right in front of them. My 2 other warbands coming in away from the action and securing some corpses early. Down with Aimer's warband though, it was getting into some spectral combat, greens versus greys. With the king on the table, I hadn't considered the ranges of any necromancer spells yet. And who'd have thought it? Combat went better than expected, with some kills, but knowing they'd be back, all I had to do was wait. And now they're behind me. Sending in the in-range warriors from the king's warband to go kill the incoming Witch King. He definitely wanted to guarantee some victory points for a leader kill, with quarters being hard to take. That was very clear.
Die now.
To get a head start away from a chill soul danger, I called with one might a heroic move, but it was counter-called and went to evil on a 1-2-3, and he tied up the king, cancelling his special occasion spending of might. The necromancer floated over the hedge and into the back of some guys and commenced some chill souling, having to spend good chunks of the king's 6 will to stop them, although I actually had a good streak of some 6s to get some back. I definitely had to try and get out of range, transfixes, and a witch king will try and stop that though. But that did mean some king on king action, King Theoden of the Dead versus the Witch King, which went pretty well. Whilst my other quarters were in relative safety, I still had some failsafe spreading out and hiding to do. With some teleporting shenanigans, my bottom quarter was under attack. The main chunk of fighting, dying, and for me permanently dying, happened in this bottom quarter, and plenty of shielding too. Bringing in some warriors from the stealth team as the other half chilled behind a wall. The king gained some reinforcements ready for the Witch King's return, but the king was out of will and got chill souled instead, with 30 minutes left of a 2.5 hour game. Then, with 8 minutes remaining, Joe made it rain might on what would likely be the last turn of combat. Heroics galore, it was spectacular. With less than 2 minutes remaining and the movement phases walking around the tables to get to the other side taking up a good chunk of that, we agreed to call it there. I had double the amount of models in 3 other quarters for 6 points and just shy of another double for 1 more. 7 victory points to Joe's leader kill for 2 points. I definitely wouldn't have fared this well on most of the other scenarios against Joe, but the high levels of fun would have remained. With 1 loss and 2 wins, I ended in 6th out of 11, so around the middle. As I'd got the wooden spoon when I was last at Kirton, that's a good result. Especially as some of my tactical decisions were actually intentional and helped me win some games. Thanks to Kirton Games for another great tournament, and thanks to Tristan, Andrew and Joe for some really fun games. So that was the first outing for my easy mode Rohan of the Dead. What do you think of my lists? Speaking of commenting though, time for the usual stuff. Like the video down below, helps the video out, helps the channel. And as I said, leave a comment. And of course, and as always, subscribe. And if you like what I'm doing here, if you like the channel, share it with any fellow hobbits or those who dwell in Middle Earth. See you on the next one.
It's quite cool.